Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kiltz Health live stream with Dr. Nelson. And let me go live on Instagram. Thank you for being here. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that is often the missing piece of the metabolic health puzzle, right? Visceral fat. Is the fat we don't see, but is the fat that impacts our longevity the most. To help us navigate, we have Dr. Ana Rosa, who is going to talk to us about that. And we're going to have a good conversation here. Hopefully, we'll have lots of questions. And if we don't, we'll make it as we go. Put your questions in the chat, please. If you put it with a QQQ, it's easier for me to see them and not miss them. I am by myself, so if I miss your question, please put it again. Okay? And without further ado, let's talk to Dr. Ana Rosa. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Dr. Nelson, for having me here with your community. I love you all, and it's such an honor to talk about visceral fat, which is something very important that is damaging the health of 95% of the people, right? According to the exams that I read daily, and I am a body radiologist. So I read daily exams that are from the lungs, the chest, and the abdomen, and the pelvis, and the liver, and the pancreas. And I see visceral fat in approximately 95% of the exams I read daily, even on people that believe that they are thin or they are skinny, and these are the thin outside, fat inside the tophus. And it's so important to be able to acknowledge that because they are metabolic unhealthy while believing that they are healthy, right? So I'm glad to be here.
So let me ask you, just while you're mentioning that, I question popped into my mind, and it's how your latest training in this particular area has affected the way you interpret imaging studies, because often I'll give you the one example I'm thinking about among others. uh, I never see a radiologist saying you have a fatty pancreas. In the report there is a fatty pancreas. There could be a fatty pancreas, and I'm sure there are often findings like that, but they don't they don't make a comment about that. What do you think?
So we have not learned as radiologists, and I believe not any other doctor really had learned about the importance of visceral fat. I got to learn about visceral fat when I was working with Dr. Sean O'Mara in Minnesota at the there in Minnesota, and that's when he brought to my awareness the importance of visceral fat. I clearly remember when he asked me to start describing visceral fat, and I'm like, what is he talking about? Visceral fat. Everybody has visceral fat. But then he explained to me the importance, and I started learning, and I started researching, and I started learning for myself. And I realized, like, wow, it's extremely important because it's a metabolic organ producing inflammation 24/7 in our bodies. And we don't describe it because it just became like a subject that all kinds of specialty are discussing everything that is related to visceral fat. So it became property of everyone, and in the end it's property of no one, right? So it's really important that now I started describing. I'm really grateful that I'm seeing this last RSNA, which is the major conference for radiology. There were some topics already evaluating visceral fat, so I'm really grateful that it's coming more and more to the awareness and the knowledge of everyone, because radiology could be, we as radiologists could be gatekeepers, right? We are the first doctors who see visceral fat. We are the ones who really see visceral fat. So when we start describing, it's important because in the beginning, when it is forming, it might be there years before metabolic syndrome develops, before the symptoms develop, before like any cardiac attack or any stroke, right? And there is a chance of reversing and exercising medicine for health and not for illness, right? Yeah.
So just couple questions before we have you have a little presentation, but uh, how do you, what's your pattern of eating? What type of diet, if you would,
Yes, I
do you
I
follow?
don't call yeah, I don't even call it a diet. I believe that the normal population, the average population, that is the population who is sick, unfortunately, and the ones that the blood tests are based on them for us to be average, the average population is on a diet that makes everyone sick, everyone fattened, everyone inflamed. It's the diet of processed foods and sugar and carbs and alcohol and everything that is extremely toxic, and vegetable oils and seeds. I used to be this population, right? And in 2022, I definitely took action and started taking care of my own life. And right now, I eat mainly carnivore. I eat butter, I eat meat, good quality. I eat eggs, I eat fish, wild caught, and I do eat chicken, but or and um, I work with Sean in learning more and more. So I also add the fermented foods. So I do use fermented veggies, fermented fruits, fermented juices, apple cider vinegar, and I use them as garnish. I fast every day, at least 16 hours a day, and I eat two meals. I eat one meal that is a little bit bigger with lots of protein, and then later on, maybe 3 hours after, before the sunset, I eat a second smaller meal. But I'm gonna share with you all because I never thought I was going to be able to do that. But I am at my day 8 of fasting. I am at 187 hours, and I have never felt better in my whole life. I even tell my boyfriend, do we really need to eat? Because I'm like, I'm not hungry when I feel a little bit more sluggish. And again, I'm not telling people to go and do a 10-day fast because I have been fasting for 3 years, right? And I started this fasting aiming for 60 hours. Then I got to 72 and I had some bumps on the road, and then I just kept extending, really paying attention to my body. I don't want to have my heart racing or my hands, cold or dizziness, or I pay attention as a doctor. So then I drink the water, I drink the electrolytes, and I rest. And I was doing my strength. I am doing my strength training. I do my walking, but like fasting with safety, right? And now I am aiming to do 10 days. 10
10
days.
days.
Yes.
Very good.
And that's going to
Uh,
end on Christmas.
so for the past 10 days, I've been doing alternate day fasting. So today I am fasting, but I have some sauerkraut in my refrigerator. My wife likes that. So I drank like 2 ounces of the juice of the sauerkraut on my fasting day. Haven't had anything to eat otherwise. It is helping me a lot to keep my blood sugar under control and not needing to use insulin because I don't produce much.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm a type 2 diabetic. Well, I actually don't fulfill any of the criteria. I could safely say I reversed that, but there's still some. insulin sensitivity and very low insulin production. My C-peptide was zero point 0.3 the last time I checked. So, anyways, it's doing pretty good.
I'm glad.
All right. Tell me, you want to go ahead and start the presentation? Should I bring that the slides up?
Yes.
Okay,
And then people could ask, and let me see if I can make it bigger. I am able to make it bigger. I kind of lose you. I'm not seeing you now, but so
that's okay.
yes.
We can
So
see it. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and take it away.
yes. So this is a picture of me on 2016. This is like immediately after my husband passed away, and I was weighing 226 pounds. Are you able to see my cursor?
Uh, Move it. Yes, we can.
Okay, so you can see all the swelling on the face and all the redness because visceral fat and inflammation, it shows everywhere in your body, right? And we're going to talk today about visceral fat because knowledge is power, and being aware of your visceral fat and being aware of how you are eating and damaging your body is extremely important for you to take action and change your life because it's definitely possible to change your life. And what is really something that amazes me is again about the TOFIs, thin outside and fat inside. Because if you look at this BMI, it's a normal BMI. But if you go from this image to the lower image, you can see the difference, right? This person barely has white inside the abdominal cavity. These are the muscles. So this is a healthy, metabolic, thin person. No visceral fat, minimal visceral fat. This is a person who has a BMI of a normal individual, but there are lots of white inside the abdominal cavity, and there is lots of deep subcutaneous fat. Both of them are inflammatory. So this is a person that believes he's healthy, but it's a person that is extremely metabolic, unhealthy, producing inflammation, the cytokines from visceral fat 24/7 in their body. So I just wanted to show that because the BMI is not something that you should believe and that you should follow. The BMI is flawed. And if you want to follow with some kind of marker that it's not the MRI or it's not the DEXA scan, you should use the waist height measurement. You measure your waist at the level of your belly button and you divide, and it should be less than your height. And if you are using centimeters, you use the metric that it's from Brazil. And if you're using inches, you use the metrics that are from here. So again, the BMI is extremely wrong, and you should get rid of believing on the BMI. Because again, this is a person that you see lots of white inside the abdominal cavity surrounding the kidneys, and here's your liver. And if you look here, here's the skin, and here's the subcutaneous fat. This person barely has subcutaneous fat, so they believe they are skinny, they believe that they are healthy, they believe that they are normal, but no, they have lots of visceral fat inside their abdominal cavity, and they are metabolic unhealthy. And how does it start in our body? So you are eating all these things that are horrible: processed foods, sugar, alcohol, carbs, and vegetable oils, and everything, all these toxins. And your liver is the organ that is trying to metabolize all this. So what happens is your liver cells start getting like filled with fat, the fatty liver. And we as radiologists can see that very well on MRI because there is a sequence called in phase, that your liver is brighter and less dark, and there is a sequence called out of phase. A normal person should have the same liver, same appearance of the liver, either in the in and also on the outer phase. A person who has hepatic steatosis, fatty liver inflammation, will have what we are seeing right here. So the liver on the in phase is bright, and the liver on the out of phase is extremely dark because the loss of signal, the loss of brightness, is due to the fatty liver, is due to the infiltration of liver in your liver cells. So when the liver is extremely overloaded with fat, we start with fatty liver, then we move to inflammation, and then we could progress to stages that are not reversible, which is fibrosis, cirrhosis, or even liver cancer. But when the liver is overloaded, the triglycerides need to find a place to get stored. So, and the glucose in the blood, the sugar in the blood gets higher, and the pancreas has to try to fix the glucose and releases insulin and keeps releasing more and more insulin. And that's when you have the insulin resistance, and that's when you have the blood sugar elevated, and that's when you also have elevated triglycerides. But then the triglycerides start to be stored not very much on the liver anymore because the liver is already overloaded. They start getting stored in the fat that surrounds your heart, the epicardial adipose tissue that we can see here as this white portion. And it's an inflammatory fat, very responsible for coronary artery disease and very responsible for heart attacks. And it starts getting uh, stored here as visceral fat, which is all this white inside your abdominal cavity. So the visceral fat is extremely inflammatory. It's a separate metabolic organ, endocrine organ, and it releases cytokines, it releases substances that increase the chances of autoimmune disease and cancer, such as interleukin 1, 6, tumor factor necrosis alpha, and then you have insulin resistance, and then you have elevated cortisol, and this is just a vicious cycle that one feeds the other, and you just get worse and worse and worse with your inflammation. And here's the pancreas. The pancreas, all the pancreas should be like that, gray and compact. But here you can see that there are lots of white streaks in the pancreatic parenchyma, and this is replacement of the pancreas by fat. So you have fat surrounding your heart, you have fat in your liver, you have fat in your pancreas, you have fat as visceral fat, and you have fat in your muscles, which is the marbleization of the muscles. So here is a very normal bulk of musculature that is gray, no white, no fat. Here you see the bones, and that black portion is the cortex that it's very thick and black. And then here you see that the muscle is marbleized. There are lots of white streaks, which are the fat within the muscles, also inflammatory. And you can see that the portion, the black portion in the bone, is way thinner. Why? Because you are decreasing the bone density. You are getting osteopenia. You are getting low bone mass. And it could progress to osteoporosis and lead you to fractures that are very important because in elderly people, a major cause of death is hip fracture, right? And what happens is exactly that. As you get older and you are not taking care of if you are not taking care of your body, your muscles start being replaced by fat, which is called myosteatosis. And with progression, it leads to sarcopenia, which is frailty of your body and frailty of your bones with bone demineralization and risks for fractures. And one thing that is very important to remember too is that the inflammation is not only occurring in your belly where you have visceral fat. The inflammation is occurring in your whole body. So your vessels, the arteries are inflamed, and the arteries bring blood to every organ in your body. So the arteries bring blood to your brain, and when you have inflammation, you have something called small vessel ischemic disease. So, what is this? So, the brain has little vessels, little arteries that go to all the areas. But here is the grayish, that is the white matter. So, when these small vessels start to get very, very inflamed because of the inflammation from the visceral fat and the insulin resistance and the high blood sugar, these vessels start to get clogged. So when they get clogged, you have ischemia, which means decreased blood flow, decreased oxygen. And these are micro strokes, as if you are having strokes, but they are micro strokes, less big, and they occur in your white matter. And this is called small vessel ischemic disease. And why is this important? Because it could be prevented. When you decrease your inflammation, your visceral fat, and you take care of your health, you are going to improve that, you are going to decrease the chances of these micro strokes happening in your brain. And these microstrokes are very significant, although they are small, because they lead to something called vascular dementia, not Alzheimer's, but vascular dementia. And it affects your speech, your cognition, your memory. So it's very important that you take action because you are like building microstrokes in your brain. And here you can see that all this white here is very significant because if you don't take care of your brain and your inflammation, you start losing brain parenchyma, brain volume. So you get atrophic changes in your brain that unfortunately we got used to describe as um, correlating with the patient's age. But because you are aging, you don't need to lose your brain parenchyma. You don't need to have your brain decreasing volume. You take action, you reverse the inflammation, you take vitamin B12, and use all the other strategies that we discuss all the time. You are able to reverse the atrophic changes in your brain. You like do your journaling, you do your muscle longevity exercises, you produce BNDF, which is brain neurotrophic derived factor, that will definitely increase the volume of your brain. So, and this is just to show that if you haven't had an MRI, but if you had a CT at some point, that you would have the CD, or you are able to look at your images somehow. The difference is on the MRI, that sequence that we evaluated that had no fat suppression, the visceral fat was white. But on CT, the visceral fat is going to be gray. So you can see all this ocean of fat surrounding the bowel loop, surrounding the aorta. And here is the subcutaneous fat, superficial, which is good for you. The scarpus fascia, which separates the superficial from the deep subcutaneous fat planes, and remembering that the deep subcutaneous fat is also as inflammatory as the visceral fat. And that was it that I wanted to share with you guys, just like to give an idea on how you can see visceral fat and how you can see inflammation in your liver, in your pancreas, in your muscles, in your of your body, also the CT, and mainly, which I think is extremely important, because we only think about dementia being Alzheimer's with deposits of amyloid and tau, and also related to inflammation. But there are other types of dementia, and vascular dementia is definitely something that is important and could be prevented, right? So thank you.
All right, so we have a question here that you sort of answered, but let's go through that. Faith Focused Food Freedom asks if I have had a CT done recently. If I go back to the image center, can I ask them to review my images for visceral fat if it wasn't mentioned in the report?
So faith, yes, it has not been, it is not mentioned in any reports because we were not taught as medical doctors, radiologists to describe visceral fat. Thank God this is something that is new and we are learning and we are going to keep learning. And my hope is that we are even going to have an MRI visceral fat screening the same way we have lung cancer or prostate or uterine or breast screenings, right? So you could bring your CD to the image center. However, I'm not sure if they will describe visceral fat because they might they might haven't understood yet that although we see it so well, how we would describe the same way that when Dr. O'Mara asked me to describe, I was like, what does that mean? So it's a process of learning. So what I would suggest to you is that you look at your own images, because and you go back on this presentation, or you could look at my Instagram account too, or my YouTube videos where I show how to look at your visceral fat, because when you open, like on this image that Dr. Nelson could share again, when you open this image here, and this is a CT, right? So you're gonna see outside of your belly, not outside, yeah, outside of your belly, you have the skin, and then you have the subcutaneous fat. And I'm gonna show it very slow, so then you could even go back here and look at your images while we were looking at this presentation. So outside you have skin, and then you have subcutaneous fat. If you go to the back portion, here's your vertebral body. So this is your back. You can see a thin line here that is grayish. This thin line is called Scarpa's fascia. You don't need to know that, but what you need to remember is that what is out of the thin gray line is the superficial subcutaneous fat, which is positive for you. You don't want to remove it with liposuction. And then which is deep. And the deep subcutaneous fat is inflammatory. So you want to decrease that, your love handles. You want to decrease your love handles. And then everything that is inside your abdomen that is gray, everything, here are your bowels, right? But everything that is inside your abdomen that is gray is the visceral fat. And you don't want to have any visceral fat, or you would like to have as minimal as possible. And if for people who have an MRI, it's the same thing. So but it's the same way of evaluating, looking at what is inside of your abdominal cavity. However, the fat is going to be white because in that sequence the fat has not been suppressed. So again, all the fat on MRI surrounding your organs is white. All the fat in your CT surrounding your organs within the abdomen beneath the muscles is gray. So that's how you can look at your visceral fat. And I believe it would be better if you look by yourself than if you go there and you ask the radiologist to give a report, because unfortunately, as for now, it has not yet been defined as a finding that is important to be described.
So, what I'm going to ask you,
Yes.
the gold standard and the poor man's way. What is the gold standard to determine, without a doubt, the visceral fat, whether we have much or not? What will be the ideal test?
So the gold standard is the MRI, the MRI of
Okay.
your abdomen without intravenous contrast. It does not have any radiation. It is not something that is a protocol right now. There is no code for the doctors to order that for visceral fat, but it is the gold standard because the MRI, as we were able to see, the MRI does not only show the visceral fat, but it also shows, like here, as you can see, the MRI doesn't show also the only the visceral fat. The MRI shows the fat in your subcutaneous, the fat in your muscles. So that's important. And so the MRI shows the quantity and the quality. Where is the fat stored? If you go ahead.
No, no, go, finish your thought.
Yeah, that's the MRI, the gold standard. You could have an MRI out of pocket that you could look at a website called radiologyassist.com, and you could ask for an MRI, and I believe they even put the order for you, and you could check in your where you live to get a better price. And I believe it's going to be around $400, $500. It is not cheap, but you might need to have only one a year, um, at least as a baseline. So it's not cheap, but again, you save your dollars every month, and then you can have one and start doing the strategies, keep doing the strategies. The second thing that you could use is a DEXA scan. The DEXA scan, I would say the MRI is the gold standard for the baseline. The DEXA scan could help you on evaluating your progress during your path, during your trajectory, on getting better and better in your health. The DEXA scan gives you a, a total fat percentage, and that's what it differs from the MRI. The MRI gives you the quantity, the quality, and you know where your fat is. When the DEXA scan gives you a total fat percentage, it's including all the fat in your body. It's including the fat in your breast. It's including the fat in your abdomen, which is the visceral fat. It's including the fat in your upper arms. It's including the fat in your lower extremities. It's including the fat in your bone marrow. So you believe like, oh, I have 44% of fat like I had in the beginning, but that doesn't mean that it's the fat in the abdomen. It's the fat that you have in your whole body. So that's why it's difficult to differentiate like, is it a benefit, a good fat or a bad fat? But at least gives you an idea for you to follow. Because what you want from the DEXA scan, if you are doing one every 3 months, for example, is to see that your fat, total fat percentage is decreasing and your bone mass and your muscle mass is increasing. So that's a good thing for you to see doing if you are doing your strategies correctly, because you don't want muscle mass to decrease. You don't want muscle mass to decrease together with the decrease of your fat. So the DEXA gives you a chance to evaluate if there is anything you need to change to improve your muscle and to improve your bones. And the third one that it's for free, you only need a tape measure, is what I said, the waist height circumference. You
So
measure,
this is the question I had because
okay,
uh, some people can't do the MRI, can do a CT scan, can do repeated DEXAs, or whatever the reason it is. The poor man's way of knowing whether you have excess visceral
yeah,
fat is your height should
yeah,
be
your waist,
twice your waist, or said another way, your waist should be half or less of your height in whatever unit of measurement, whether
yeah,
it's in, it doesn't matter the unit of measurement, your waist measuring it the same way that you're measuring your height should be less than half of
yeah.
your height.
And you can also see that when you lay down on the floor. When you lay down on the floor, if you have less visceral fat and more subcutaneous fat, your belly is going to be more flat. Your belly is going to be more oval shaped. If you have more visceral fat, your belly is protuberant because visceral fat is hard. And your abdomen, it will almost look like as if you are pregnant, you know. So like if I stand up here right now and you can see me, I still have visceral fat, but like here, this is still a lot of subcutaneous fat. I don't have much visceral fat anymore. I just had an MRI 3 days, like last Friday. But you can see that it's more oval shaped now. But when I had a lot of visceral fat, I was like that, right? Your belly goes ahead. So then when you lay down, you can see that if you have lots of visceral fat, you have a protuberant abdomen, and if you are improving, the protuberant abdomen will be decreasing.
All right. We have a question by uh,
Once you get
Brian,
rid of the
Harry,
carb, yeah,
or Brian.
yeah.
Once you get rid of the carbs and all the bad stuff, what is the best protocol for fasting? How many times and duration should you be doing a month?
I would respond to you with what I believe is the best way. You make it easy. How do you make it easy? How do you make it fun? How do you make it safe? You know, I could tell you all the fasting protocols, but I believe you should experiment with your body and choose the one that is you will feel good, you will not feel like sick, sluggish, and or weak, and then you start slowly and you start increasing. Like I started doing fastings that were like 24 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, and I started extending, and then 16, and then 18, and then 24. Sometimes it's really hard to get to 60, and suddenly I did 196 hours and it was extremely hard. So this last time I decided I was going to do 60 hours. And because I have been experimenting with my body, now I am at my day 8. So again, I'm going to say I have been experimenting for 3 years. And um, as a doctor, I pay attention to my body because you should not do something that you will feel weak, that will not be safe, because then you're going to be like shooting your foot, right? Instead of decreasing the stress and getting the benefits of the fasting, your body will be very stressed because it's going to be feeling sick, and then you're going to increase cortisol. So my answer for you is the best protocol for fasting is the one that you are able to do without feeling that you are beating yourself up. And how many times and duration? Again, experiment with yourself.
So definitely, if you have are not doing any prolonged fasting, you're not experienced, basically, uh, you should start with restricting your times of eating. Uh, and then once you are used to at least doing maybe 24 hours, which is not really fasting, I don't call it fasting. I call it time restrictive eating. But the next step will be if you're doing once a day, and many people in this community do that. If you're doing once a day, just keep a day of eating, okay? Because if you normally have your meal at 5 p.m. and the next day 5 p.m. and the next day 5 p.m., but if you skip one day of eating, you have a built-in 48 hours, at the very least 36 if you're going to eat in the morning the following day after your fasting. And I would not do any prolonged fasting without sort of working up uh, to that number, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I really liked what Dr. Nelson said, because eat your last meal before the sunset, because then you are connected to the circadian rhythm. And and then you also will be getting the leverage from your sleep time added to your fasting window, right? So sleep, eat before the sunset, and then get your sleep time added to your fasting. And then in the other day, you keep extending if you're not hungry, keep extending if you're not hungry, and see how. And if you're hungry, it might be because you're thirsty, so then drink your water with electrolytes and apple cider vinegar and salt, mineral salt, and then evaluate again. Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I feeling sick? And it could be also that you are anxious about something or bored, and food is your way to go, whatever, for you to get feel better. So evaluate that too. And also remember that when you are going to end your fasting, you should end your fasting with protein. That's your first meal. That should be when you end your fasting. Remember to always get your protein instead of like eating something different. Yeah.
All right. So we have a question here. I haven't heard we talking about visceral fat. How much is too much? I mean, first of all, how do we measure the visceral fat? Is it in the amount of pounds? Is it in volume? I mean, what is it? If we have a one of those fancier scales that have multiple probes, what is it that they're measuring, and that number, what should it be?
Um, the number should be 0. You don't want to have visceral fat. But
Okay.
but again, it might not be realistic, right? Because 95% of the people are severely have severe amounts of visceral fat. if you consider that the ideal is 0. However, what you are going to do is, I would definitely follow much better the waist height measurement if you're not going to do anything else, than really focus too much on the scales that are full of numbers. And then I would use the scales for all full of numbers, or the bioimpedance, or the DEXA, just to track my trajectory if I am getting better without losing muscle and without losing bones. And then I would save some money, and I would definitely get an MRI, because the MRI is where you see that the fat that all the numbers are giving you, you're going to see where it is stored. So then you're going to know, oh, the deep subcutaneous fat, the visceral fat, the epicardial adipose tissue, they are not good for me. But the subcutaneous fat, the superficial subcutaneous fat, or the fat in the bone marrow, or maybe some fat in my arms and my legs, they are not that bad. And they are measured together in all these numbers, right? So I would rely more in the waist height circumference, and in my energy. If you are feeling better, if you are improving your rosacea, if you are improving like your asthma, if you are improving your lethargy, if you are walking better, everything is a sign that you are getting rid of your inflammation, right? Slowly but surely, one step at a time.
So Lamb's Z or Lamb's asks, given the fact that all mammals have visceral fat, even the healthiest grass-fed ones, why would it be dangerous only in humans?
That question is a very difficult one for me, to answer to you, because I don't, I'm not a vet. So I don't know if the animals that have more visceral fat are really healthy. They might be as sick as we are, right? If you look at the animals that are fed grains, for them to get fat faster, for them to get like the meat that is marbleized, they are not healthy, because if their meat, which is muscle, is marbleized to be softer, they can't be healthy because the muscles are already fat replaced. And if you look at these fatty animals that are filled with visceral fat, if you go and evaluate, I have read that, so I don't know if it's for true or if I'm giving you fake news. But if you go and look they say that these animals are filled with cortisol. No matter who you are in the world, if you are an animal or if you are a human animal, cortisol in high amounts is not good for your health, is stressful. You do need cortisol. No one lives without cortisol, but not like in amounts that are the stress, flight, fight, freeze mode.
Excess.
Yes, it's
All
like
right.
cholesterol. You need your cholesterol. It's not about decreasing cholesterol. What you don't want is the inflamed, the oxidized cholesterol. Because you need cholesterol to produce your sexual hormones. You need cholesterol to produce all kinds of other substances in your body. So, what you don't want is the oxidized cholesterol, because that's the one that damaged the endothelial tissue in your arteries, leading to plaques and calcification and heart attack and vascular disease and stroke.
All right. So we have one more question here. If you have any more questions, please put them in the chat. Q in front of it, please.
Yes, I'm so very happy that I'm here with you all.
Uh, Larry, how are you, Larry? I can't have an MRI because I have had a hip replacement.
You can have an MRI because unless, like, I don't know when you had your hip replacement, but the newer prostheses, which are less than 20 years, they are MRI safe and compatible. So far, almost everything has been MRI safe and compatible, unless it's related to the heart. Which they are already making some kind of heart devices that are MRI safe as well. Even when you have a shunt or something for your brain, they are already making all these devices MRI compatible. So what I would say is, whenever you schedule an MRI, There is a safe questionnaire that there's no way you're going to get in an MRI scanner without filling the safe questionnaire. So you are going to tell them that you have had a hip replacement, and the MRI technologist, always check if it is safe and MRI compatible. There is a website called MRI Safety. I think it's MRI Safety, and the tech always checks all kinds of devices. Yes.
All righty.
Oh, but if you really can't have an MRI, if you have had a CT, you could also check your CT and see your visceral fat. And again, you could measure your waist height circumference.
And you can always do a DEXA scan. We do talk about the gold standard because the MRI has much better resolution. You can divide the tissues much better and all that. But if all you have access is a DEXA or
Or a
even a
bioimpedance.
bioimpedance machine, I had a year and a half ago a DEXA for body composition, and the numbers that I compared it to my $25 scale that does some bioimpedance, they were almost the same.
Yes,
So
exactly. Me too.
they're fairly accurate. They're accurate enough to do tracking, and then once in a while you can go and do the MRI.
Absolutely. And I would say it again. For you to do weekly or monthly, I would definitely check the waist height circumference. It's what you can do and measure. I wouldn't even worry about the scale because the scale varies a lot with hydration, with even when you don't sleep well, you get more swollen. And also the scale, if you're getting muscle mass, you're going to think that you're gaining weight, but you're not gaining weight. So I would start with the like weight in fat, right? So I would start with the waist height circumference monthly, and then I would do like maybe a DEXA or a bioimpedance. If you have a bioimpedance in your gym, you could do it monthly as well because I think it's free. And then I would do a DEXA maybe every 3 months or every 6 months. A DEXA, I believe, is $100. And the bioimpedance, so again, the waist height is for you to measure that you're doing you're getting better. The bioimpedance and the DEXA would be for you to check if you are in the right trajectory, in the right path, if you are losing fat at the same time that you are increasing muscle and bone, or at least maintaining. If this here, the muscle and bone starts decreasing, you have to take action. The DEXA and the bioimpedance is a red flag and alert for you to, hey, I might not be doing, I need to change my system. And I would definitely work on doing an MRI at least once a year, or because then you could see. And again, it's 400, it's $500. But if you save $10 every week, maybe, I'm not going to do math because I'm a radiologist, but if you save the money, you probably are going to be able to have an MRI out of pocket, right? At least once a year. Yeah. And it's your health. Your health should not be expensive.
All right. So, question. I'll give you sort of a multiple choice.
Okay, let's go.
Is it the fructose that we eat? Is it the fat that we eat? Or is it the insulin? There's a lot of debate on the primary driver of visceral fat. What is the role of fructose and seed oils compared to animal fats in the accumulation of organ fat or visceral fat?
So, visceral fat comes from eating processed foods, ultra processed foods, vegetable or seed oils, um, lots of carbs, and then I put the fructose and the alcohol. And so everything that is toxic leads to the production of visceral fat. And again, it's the process. Your liver is trying to clean your body for you, and it's not being able, and it's overloaded. So the sugar and the triglycerides after the liver is fatty starts increasing in your blood. And then the fat in your abdomen, the fat cells start increasing in volume, and when they are 100, 200 times bigger, they start increasing in number. And in the process of increasing, which is the visceral fat formation, you are having all the cascade of inflammation. And at the same, so everything is happening at the same time. It's not one thing is separate from the other. Your body is screaming, help, help, help. So like the pancreas is releasing insulin more, 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 more. The blood sugar is high and then it's not responding. So the insulin resistance comes together with the high blood sugar, comes together with the fatty liver, comes together with the fatty liver comes first, but then you have high blood sugar, high insulin, high triglycerides, visceral fat production, and then cortisol, and then cytokines, and then one feed the other. So um, the animal fats, I believe they are good. They are the ones that when you are eating protein and you are eating animal fats and you are eating no carb or very low, less than 20, less than 50 grams a day, and you are fasting, you are definitely improving everything at the same time.
By the way, the comment about the hip replacement, it was eight
Yes.
years ago.
So definitely you are you I would say I would say most definitely I don't want to be not safe. Most definitely your hip replacement is MRI compatible and safe for you. But again, you are not going to do any MRI without anywhere in the world without filling the safe questionnaire. So your MRI technologist on the clinic or hospital, wherever you are doing it, will be checking for you. So you don't need to be concerned about it. Yeah.
All righty.
All wild caught fish has got visceral fat. It seems to be a normal storage of energy. I am puzzled. Um, yeah, I just can answer to you what I know about humans. And to be honest with you, I know that sometimes we ask questions that is just because we are curious, but I would keep asking the questions about being curious and check what happens in the animals. But for you lambs, you are a human, right? So believe I would just grab the truth that visceral fat for you is damaging, even if it's not damaging for the wild caught fish. So the visceral fat for you is damaging. And if you are still puzzled, I would say just experiment with your body. You are your own N1, right? What happens for me will not be what happens for you. So I would experiment with your body and then you can write your own story. Oh, yeah, decreasing visceral fat and inflammation. All my blood tests are normal. And now I have better energy. And now I sleep better. And now I don't have, not saying that you do, but now I don't have, or I will never have erectile dysfunction. All these things that are, and I'm preventing heart attack and I'm preventing dementia. Because the dementia Alzheimer's one, which is from tau and amyloid deposition in your brain. It's called the diabetes type 3 now. It has been renamed. It's not new, but it has been renamed by Mayo Clinic as diabetes type 3. So again, high blood sugar and high insulin resistance inflammation. So I would definitely keep researching about what you want to know in the animal system, but as a different animal, I would definitely work on building your own health. I hope this helps. Yeah.
All right. So I have a couple, we have only a few minutes left. Uh, I have a few questions for you.
Yeah. Boom, boom.
Ribeye, New York strip. What's your favorite cut?
Uh, I am buying
Picanha.
grass fed, grass finished. I love picanha, but I don't know if they have grass fed, grass finished picanha. Um, And in all honesty, I have ADHD. So I struggle a lot in preparing meals for myself. I procrastinate a lot. So I am buying ground beef. And then Sunday, I just prepare a batch of ground beef, and it lasts for me until Wednesday. And then Wednesday night, I prepare ground beef again. So it's just simple and easy, you know. Yeah.
So eggs, scramble over easy. How do you prefer them?
I like scrambled eggs. I like omelets, and then I use the fermented cheese. And I do like a lot boiled eggs because they are easy as well. I boil like 12, and then I have 12 in my fridge that I just have to peel them when I'm eating, when I'm going to eat. And again, I usually eat 5 or 6 eggs in one meal, because then I know that I'm having my 30 grams of protein. It's my brain. It's how my brain works.
How about coffee?
I don't drink coffee. I don't like coffee. And I know it could be good, but I don't like coffee. I do have the cocoa 100%, and I mix sometimes with water, hot water, and then it feels like a hot chocolate. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and by
How
the way,
about
Relight has a chocolate electrolyte now. It's not 0 calories like the other ones that are. And sometimes it's winter, right? So sometimes I'm cold and I just drink it with water.
what do you use for cooking? What kind
I
of
I
fat or oil?
I use olive oil, the one that says it's for cooking, and I use olive oil when by any chance I decide that on that day I'm gonna eat some veggies. Um, when I eat veggies, what I like is cauliflower rice, although I had a ear pull by Sean and some of my friends that I shouldn't be eating cauliflower rice. And I don't eat it very often, but it's just my Brazilian in me who loves rice, right? And I do love the cauliflower rice with the over easy egg on top. So sometimes I do that. Just anyway. Um, and I do use a lot of the carry something butter, Kerrygold butter.
Kerrygold. Yeah.
Yeah, water.
How
My
about
water.
I'm sorry?
My water. I have a reverse osmosis filter only on my sink, because if not, it's extremely expensive. So I have a reverse osmosis filter on my sink, and then I replace the minerals with salt. I am using the Redmond salt. Some people say I could use a better quality, but I still have a whole bag, so I'm not going to worry about that right now. Yeah. And apple cider vinegar. Every time I drink water, I have apple cider vinegar. And I drink my big bowl of 1 liter with 1 tablespoon every time. So if I'm drinking 3 liters of water, I'm drinking 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. And it might be more than a tablespoon because I don't measure, I just do poop. But I don't drink apple cider vinegar pure, because otherwise you're going to hurt your enamel on your teeth. But worse than that, you could get caustic esophagitis, and I don't want that. Yeah.
How about how important is mindset in all of this?
For me, it has been fundamental. I have used food since I was little, since my parents divorced, as my numbing and safe place. So I had always fought with a yo-yo weight. And even when I started doing these strategies in 2020 to get better, all the time I would be stressful with something. I would go to the fridge and I screwed up. So I would feel like a failure. And then when I started walking the journey of grief after my husband died, I realized, wait a sec. I connected the dots and I'm like, wait a second. The same way I have to sit with the pain from grief for me to heal, I'm going to have to sit with my pain when I am dealing with food. And that's when I started working with mindset. And that's when I started building sustainable success. And that's what I talk and I teach. And in my community, the Optimize You Life program by Dr. Rosa Gratitude. It's a community that I'm building for us to hold on to each other. My memory picture, hold on, hold hands through the heart of our souls, so then we can heal together and we can support together. Because like all this nutrition and movement stuff, it's online, right? You can Google and you're going to learn everything. There's a lot of noise. So when you have like people like you, like me, Dr. Kiltz, Chaffee, anyway, anyone you would like to follow or everyone, there's a lot of noise from the chat GPT. So when you have someone guiding you, of course, you are guided in the right direction and it's faster, right? You're not building the wheel. But mindset and neuroplasticity is definitely something that being together is better. And we saw how isolation was detrimental during COVID, right?
Definitely. Where can we find you, Dr. Ana Rosa?
You can find me here with Dr. Nelson because he's my best partner now, and I love him, and I hope to be here all the time with you guys now. I'm going to become his tick, like tick, you know. And you could find me also on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Ana Rosa Gratitude. And I have a website, anarosagratitude.com, and you could come and join my community. And one other thing that I want to say is besides being a medical doctor radiologist, and I have a PhD in ultrasound intraoperative, um, I am also certified as a coach for health and empowerment by the High Performance Institute and Jay Shetty, and menopause. And I am a grief educator because I learned walking my grief journey from my husband dying and gratitude. And but more than that, I am human, just like you. And my intention, my mission, my intention, my service is to really connect, build accountability, partnership, and spread light and spread health and spread knowledge and wisdom for us all to just be healthy together, you know? Yeah. Much more than any certificate or titles. We are here to hold each other and make us better with functional bodies, enjoying life and with vitality and enjoying our kids and grandkids, right, Dr. Nelson? I am
Certainly.
expecting a grandkid. So are you. Yeah. Yes.
So thank you for being here. We're past the top of the hour, so we're gonna finish it here. Thank you for everybody for being here.
Thank you.
We are going to be in the Kiltz Mighty Tribe community today at 5:30, and we're gonna have one of our coaches talk to us a little bit. So 5:30 within the Kiltz Mighty Tribe community, and tomorrow morning 6 a.m. as always in the morning live. Okay. So
Yes.
you have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thank you for being here again, Doctor.
Thank you. My honor.
Eat, eat me.
Yes.